The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Hey, welcome onto the program. It's First and 12 right here. Don't shake your head like that at me, Gustavo. We're having a good time in here, all right? First and 12, right here on KSL News Radio. All we talk about on this program is the Big 12. That's all we get you going on with all things Big 12 football. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, you can, of course, have on these football Tuesdays on KSL News Radio. You get the fill here of Cougar Tracks preceding this program, you just heard. And then 2 hours of First and 12, where we go all Big 12. And then you're going to hear Coach Kalani Sitake. And on a rivalry week, it's always good. I'm always interested to see how vanilla that these coaches can keep it and just try to keep their feelings really as guarded as possible on this week, because both coaches, both Kyle Whittingham and Kalani Sitake, do it like, oh, we respect our opponents. It's just like, and Kyle Whittingham was like, I'm just focusing on us this week. Was that his quote?
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on us. How about
what are your thoughts on Bear Bachmer? I'm just focusing on our guys.
I think you'd have to ask Bear about Bear. It's like, okay, ask Bear's mom about Bear. Don't ask me about it. So, yes, that's the type of rivalry week insights that we get. However, always good to hear from Coach Kalani Sitake. That's coming up right after this program. In the meantime, our very favorite thing that we do, I would say, this and the Sound Roundup. These are some of our favorite segments. But every week we get you going with the weekly update of the Big 12 Power Rankings. Let's do it.
The Big 12 Power Rankings. A weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
No surprise, as we've been talking throughout the show already. Number one, Texas Tech. It's pretty cut and dry. There's nothing really to add. Now, Baron Morton, a little bit banged up. Baron Morton with Texas Tech.
And Will Hammond didn't look like the giant slayer that he was against Utah necessarily. Their six-figure backup quarterback down there at Tech, but still, though, when you get 200 and something yards out of your sophomore running back, you don't need anything else out of your backup quarterback. I'm interested to see what the Baron Morton situation really is. Like, is that your best quarterback?
Yeah,
is that their best quarterback?
That's where I'm wondering. I think Will Hammond might be their best one.
They'll get to the Big 12 championship game, and at that point, you'll kind of know who the real guy is, right? And then there's no way you can fake it in the college football playoff.
Could we see a situation maybe years ago in the college football playoff where Jalen Hurts got benched for Tua? Maybe we see some big game for Texas Tech, and Joey says, hey, Morton's struggling. They have so much confidence in Will Hammond that they go.
Yeah, teams have some film on him, obviously, and they know what he did against that Utah defense. Now, part of it was a little bit of that element of surprise, but also the balls that he threw were crazy. So Texas Tech being number one, it's a no-brainer.
Yes.
They're not just undefeated. They're beating the heck out of teams. And people fear Tech. I mean, that's the reality, is that people fear Texas Tech right now, and you should. Maybe the teams say that they don't, but I will tell you, they absolutely will.
And they still have one of the best wins in the league going at Utah last month. That's going to hold up, and it's showing that way. And number two in the rankings is BYU, also undefeated like Texas Tech, 6-0. Kind of going under the radar nationally, but they are number 15 in the AP Top 25 polls. So they're definitely climbing, knocking on the door of the top 10 a little bit. So BYU, it's been kind of gradual build, but everything's in front of BYU. The same start as they had last year, 6-0 back-to-back seasons for the Cougars.
And if they eke out a win against Utah, which I assume that's the only way they can win games, it seems like they eke out games and against extremely good opponents. That's not a diss. What I'm saying is they almost like these close games because they know that they have kind of an advantage of just getting there and getting the wins. I'm interested to see how these rankings shake out. But we have Utah at number 3. I love it. Utah and BYU being right next to each other toward the top of the rankings there. What you're really saying is this is that race to see who that number 2 at the end of the year is, and that's where BYU and Utah both are. Utah, of course, already played Texas Tech. I have no doubt that Texas Tech goes into Provo a few weeks ago. You may have seen the same result because you hadn't seen the development that Bear Bachmeyer has already gone through, and so there might be a different result there. But 3 Utah. How about 4 Cincinnati? And I love that. That's a one-loss Cincinnati team. By the way, it's not just you lose that close game against Nebraska. It's actually that one play. It was the interception that was thrown by Sorsby that was just kind of a garbage throw for no reason to the end. Like, you don't need to be a hero in that moment. And that lost that game against Nebraska, who we're looking at now and is a ranked team. But I think Cincinnati's a better team than that Nebraska team.
And that reflects in the polls. I thought that was pretty cool to see Cincinnati one spot ahead of Nebraska. Cincy at 24, Nebraska at 25. Both of those teams pretty good this season. Number 5, another good team in the Big 12 power rankings for us this week. Houston Cougars 5-1. Lone losses to Texas Tech. They got a quarterback in Connor Wegman. I think Houston is going to be a tough out, and I feel very confident they're going bowling at a minimum. I mean, gosh, they're one win away from that. Houston, I think what's interesting about Houston is just operational-wise, they just seem like they're organized, they're structured, whereas with Holgerson, with previous regimes that they've had there's been some boom or bust guys, whereas Fritz, you feel like he's going to build a program long-term that is very steady, and that hasn't been the case for Houston in a very long time. He gives them so much optimism down in H-Town. Cougs are playing at a high level. And of note there, Alex, in the top 5, 3 teams that joined the league 2 years ago, BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston, making a name for themselves because 2 years ago when we launched this show, all of those teams were at the cellar, the bottom of this league. It's been a slow build, but these teams that joined the conference a couple years ago are building up and being some of the top teams this season.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's Arizona State who joined it last year and was the tops, and they're still kind of up toward that same, and they're still up there. They're still going to be there. And Utah's right there as well. So, yeah, I think the league didn't just get better. They got a lot better just because of how the parity has been. And I hate that word in sports, but at the same time, it's been really good to get all those programs into the Big 12. Where do we end off? Arizona State is just underneath Houston. They take that bad loss against Utah. Part of the reason they didn't tumble more after a huge loss like that on the road and it's their second of the year, it's just everybody wonders, but with Sam Leavitt out, and if he comes back, is this team, how different is this team without Sam Leavitt? Now, your whole team can kind of take a big, giant, sigh, but they still gave up 42 points to that Utah team. Sam Leavitt doesn't play defense. Yeah, but he doesn't play defense. And I get that part of your defense is your offense being on the field and scoring, but the reality is that Utah still hung 42 on those guys, and I think that was a whole team that was just absolutely obliterated by the fact that their quarterback was out. That's how big of a difference Sam Leavitt makes.
Number 7 is Baylor. 8 is TCU. And then here's where maybe it could be a little bit controversial. 9, Iowa State. They're sliding big. Is that too big of a fall?
No, you lose 2 in a row. On our polls especially, we're pretty loose with like, hey, we're not trying to make guesses long term, which is I think a lot of these national polls do. We're just going, hey, these last 2 weeks you've stunk.
And they had that only 8-point win over Arkansas State. Like, we kind of excuse that in the moment, but you kind of look at where things have been the last month. It hasn't been good for Iowa State outside of that Arizona game.
And I've been impressed by Arizona, and that's the only reason that they're below Iowa State at number 10 in our poll is because they lost that overtime game to BYU, but they got beat by Iowa State.
Hammered.
As part of they got blown out by Iowa State. And so that's the one thing we're looking at and going, this conference just gives us, speaking of blowouts, how about number 11? Probably the highest they've been since week 1 or 2.
It's been a minute.
Is Kansas State, who moved right on up in these power poll in our power rankings to number 11 after a dominant win over TCU, and we never saw it coming. I don't think any of us picked that game this week.
No, not at all. And for TCU to give up 2 turnovers that results in touchdowns, like, you can't do that in this league. And it highlights how thin the margins are. But Kansas State having their defense show up, that was huge for them. If that can carry week after week, they could absolutely be a spoiler in this Big 12 championship race and be like what Kansas was last year, but maybe to a higher scale because they still actually have a decent record that could put them squarely in the mix for everything in front of them. Number 12 is the Colorado Buffaloes. Big win for the Buffs, who were so close the previous 2 weeks at TCU and at home against BYU. It was a breakthrough victory, I think, for Coach Prime to get a win over a nationally ranked team because they were struggling so much in the Coach Prime era against ranked teams. They finally broke through, and that was a huge win for the Buffs.
I wonder if they've actually figured some things out, or if they kind of rallied around Coach and they kind of got some juice that week from all that. We'll see how that kind of shakes out. We have totally forgotten almost about Jalen Daniels. I almost forgot his dang name. Like, how many times do we have to talk about that guy the last few years at the quarterback at Kansas? Lance Leipold is in a weird spot. he keeps getting really close and then kind of blowing it. Now, listen, losing to Texas Tech in Lubbock is, it's almost par for the course this year with how good Tech is. But Kansas is not looking good, man, and they're 13th in our power poll.
Do you wonder if Wisconsin fires Luke Fickell? Does Lance Leipold look at that job potentially if that becomes
Go back
open?
up to his old Whitewater.
Yeah, he's from Wisconsin,
yeah.
Whitewater. That's maybe a spot that you kind of watch because, again, it's not like they're good. Kansas is going to be competitive. I think they're good enough to maybe go to a bowl, but they thought a couple years ago that they could be Big 12 title contender good, and they're nowhere near that.
Gosh, and you know what? And then Jeff Grimes comes back into Kansas and becomes a head coach for no reason.
And he's at Wisconsin. It's just a circle. This football community, man.
The place that fired him after one season.
Number 14,
yes.
UCF, the Knights, 0-3 in Big 12 play. I think they were a byproduct of a weak non-conference schedule, and they're coming down to earth. But I still think that they're a little bit further ahead than I thought they would be in year one under Scott Frost. 15, West Virginia. Rich Rod era is off to a very slow start. They just had a bye. We'll see if they've got any sort of excitement coming out of this. And then 16, Oklahoma State. They're going to probably stay there the whole season.
Yeah, and that might be those bottom three. They might stay exactly where they're at the rest of the year, too. All right, let's take another break here. We'll come back. It is another segment in the books, and we're going to get you ready for rivalry week in the Big 12. Of course, the big one here locally is that BYU-Utah rivalry game. We've also got a lot of games to look ahead to this week. Other games that have that rivalry significance as well. Stay with us. It is 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
It's BYU and Utah week. As the kids say less. It's an awesome game. It'll be kicking off at 6 p.m. right here on KSL News Radio. The BYU call, of course. And extended pregame will begin at noon. Here on your legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
I've raised a good one, Mitch, my oldest son, who, right now, he's at the point of his life where he kind of pretends like he doesn't hear me or listen to me at all. But he's also been around my entire radio career. I've been doing this since before he was born. And he's a sports kid. Like, he's into it. He follows all the stuff. But he has the thing that you and I were born with, which is the inability to miss stuff. I mean, he just doesn't miss things, right? And so rivalry week brings out something interesting. And for me, he texted me yesterday and he goes, I have to listen to people talk about Utah and BYU at school this week, and it's really hard. And I said, yeah, I get it. I said, hey, people are idiots when rivalries come out, man. That's my theme. People the IQ drops when rivalry week comes around. People get absolutely blinded by making decent decisions, whether it's about predictions about how these games are going to go, whether it's about, how you're going to treat another fan base or whatever it is, what you're going to say on social media. And I was really proud of him because he was like, I can't believe some of the stuff these guys are saying. And it was both sides, right? Where it's like, okay, that's an overstatement about how good or bad Utah's defense is. That's an overstatement of how injured this BYU player is or how great Bear Bachmeier is. The reality is that this far into the season, Mitch, it's almost like 8 weeks in, because we're going into week 8, right? And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to get our first college football playoff rankings. And I feel like those won't even actually tell. They go, look, you got to go. Bronco used to be big on that. I don't consider rankings real until about week 8 or 9. And the reality is this week, I don't know if I feel even that way. I don't know if we know anything about these two teams like we normally do going into a rivalry game like this, and yet at the same time, true to rivalry form, I don't think it matters.
It doesn't. This game is always so good, and it lives up to the hype every single year. It's always a one-possession game. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to Irving, Texas, but was it a stroke of genius putting this on October 18th? Because it feels like now the stakes are greater than ever. Because when we looked at the schedule in February when it got released, I thought, October 18th, like, what are you doing here? You're bouncing it from November 9th to October 18th. What's the rhyme and reason? There's none. But this kind of worked out to where you got an undefeated team, a one-loss team. First time that's happened since 2008, but you pair it up with Power Conference affiliation, network TV, a pregame show. it feels huge, and it's a big stage. I was looking back at the history, and I can't point to another game where both teams have equal high-level stakes on the line.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest in rivalry history. I'm not trying to get into hyperbole and say biggest game ever. I really think this is the greatest stakes ever. In this rivalry.
But why wouldn't it be? These guys are brand new to be in a power conference together ever, right? They are. This is. What is it for BYU? Year 3, year 2 for Utah. This is brand new. Year 1 for BYU in the Big 12 was not good, and Utah wasn't there. Year 2, BYU was good, and Utah was not. And now, guess what? This is the best that they've ever been in this conference, which is the best that they've ever been from a talent perspective. So why can't we, from the papers side of it, say this is on paper the biggest and best version of this game we've ever seen? The two teams have been ranked different. They've probably been ranked higher going into other games before. What was BYU last year? Going to 7, something like that. And Utah was in the middle of they were at that point 4 games in to a 7-game losing streak. It was not the year that you wanted for that rivalry game, and yet it was a 1-point game and even had controversy wrapped into that as well. So I told you last week when we were talking about that Texas-Oklahoma game, I go, I've seen this game too many times. That game has the most it doesn't matter vibe to it of any other game because the talent level is always insane at both schools. And sometimes that talent just rises to the top in that game, and those guys find it. And in this game, I see the same thing for BYU and Utah. I'm concerned, obviously, about what the injuries are going to do. Obviously, we're going to get the first injury report officially from BYU. Everybody's going to be wondering where Jack Kelly's name is on that thing. What's your guess, though? Because I think it was almost a game-time type decision last week against Arizona, right?
It was a coin flip in Tucson, and if I had to guess, it would be he goes and plays. Because with him being so close to playing in Tucson just days after suffering the injury against West Virginia, I would guess he's going to give it a go. Home state, I mean, this rivalry, he didn't grow up a college football kid, but he's been in this state long enough, and he knows the significance, just like many do. And I think that's what's so awesome about this rivalry is that, these teams, when you look at the statistical profile of these teams, they are basically the same, Alex. It is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah kind of started different on this season where they kind of came out like a gangbuster where they get a huge win over UCLA, in which is looking pretty good now. I mean,
now UCLA's turning
Deshaun
around.
Foster might be the worst coach in the history of college football with how bad they were. Now UCLA's looking very good, and that's a nice win for Utah. But you look at just the stats, they want to lean on the run. They want to be physical at the line of scrimmage. I just think the battles, I asked Keanu Tanavasa about the chess match that it's going to be between him and Utah's O-line. They know everything about Keanu. Keanu knows everything about them. That's going to be epic, just must-see if you love trench play. And then the quarterbacks, too, are interesting, where it's Devin Dampier, it's Bear Bachmeier. I would say it's one of the best quarterback battles that we've seen in this rivalry. Last year was Jake Retzloff and Brandon Rose, and I don't think that was great quarterback play. I think these two are much better than last year.
And then by the end, was Brandon Rose in the entire game, too? I want to feel like...
Gosh, did he get... I
thought he got injured at one point. Did the long-haired kid from California come in? I can't remember now.
I think Rose played the whole way.
The reality is that Rose was... I mean, that's not the guy you sign up to play the rivalry game
But it just
with.
feels like both teams have like their full collection of personnel for the most part.
Well, and from an X's and O's standpoint, like from the on paper stuff, that's one thing. The X's and O's standpoint, if Jack Kelly can go, that changes the dynamic of this game like huge for BYU, because what's his job? His job is that, and he's maybe the best at it in the country. Like, you hunt down that running quarterback. You better spy that guy, right? And when he's on that duty, guess what it does? It allows Isaiah Glasgow to be one of the best cover linebackers in the entire country, right? And last week, what had to happen? Jack Kelly's out. Siale Acera is not 100%-ish. I mean, he comes out at one point in the game, but also Siale Acera is not the athlete, and he's one of the leading tackles on the team, so I don't want to try to diss him.
Doesn't have that closing speed, though, like Jack.
No, like Isaiah.
Yes.
And so Isaiah Glasgow is the next best version of a spy in that case. Isaiah Glasgow is, like I said, as good of a cover guy. This is why he's going to be phenomenal in the NFL. But when those two guys are on the field together, it makes a huge difference. So the decision on Jack Kelly is going to be absolutely, and you think Utah's not going to be planning for all of this? Jason Beck is going to be figuring out how to play that chess match with Jay Hill's defense. What a phenomenal matchup, by the way.
Goodness.
And
it is
I know.
Electric.
And by the way,
cinema.
I know.
Pure cinema.
Think about Micah Simon, Mark Atuaya, Jason Beck, all coming into LaVell Edwards Stadium wearing crimson, going up that elevator.
That's kind of promo.
You see what I'm saying though? Like, it's a weird moment. It's a weird moment for those guys.
Yes.
They can pretend all they want. They're going to be going up the elevator wearing U of U stuff for the first time. These guys, a lot of these guys, think about it, even Kalani. He was used to wearing the crimson at some point. He was actually probably more like, hey man, these guys are paying me, man. Right? And Jay Hill, he had to get weird and wear the blue on the other side.
Gary Anderson, Chad Kaha, all these guys.
Think of it, yes.
Justin Etta.
Yes, and so
Aaron Roderick, all of them.
Coach Pua. I mean, all of these guys, the amount of back and forth, and first of all, one of my favorite moments ever in the rivalry, if you allow me to tell the story, if we have time. I just want to say real quick. I was watching, I think it was Kalani's, it was the 2019 game. Freshman year for
season opener and that first game of the year.
Freshman year for sophomore year for Zach Wilson. They come in and they are up 20-0, like that.
Oh, that was freshman year. That was 2018.
That was at Rice Eccles.
Utah had already clinched the Pac-12 South.
They have their quarterback out, right? And so they're going with Jason Shelley, I think.
And Armand Shine at running back.
And BYU is immediately, boom, just going all over them. Just boom, boom, boom. They score on them. And at the half, it's 20-0, like that. And, of course, as this rivalry game goes, that stadium blows up. I'm on the field, and I'd never heard a stadium that explosive than I did right then against BYU when they came back and won that game against BYU after being down 20-0 at the half. After the game, we're waiting to shoot some TV stuff, right? And there's a moment where the coaches are done all their post games and everything, and both coaching staffs come out of their respective locker rooms. It was the coolest thing ever. These guys are all freaking brothers, man. And by the way, did this ever happen on Broncos staff? Those guys came in and they were hugging and pushing each other and laughing and like punching each other. And I thought, the rivalry is back. When Kalani, and guess what? Heart is as heartbreaking as it gets. The rivalry needs to be like that. When those guys are laughing and pointing at each other and clowning on each other and then going, dude, I can't freaking wait to get you again next year. Hey, love you. Call me for Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Like, that was the essence of the rivalry for me. And I hope that's the kind of vibe this week that it ends up with. I hope it's close like that. I hope the stadium explodes, well, in a good way, and not with all the fireworks that they do and the drone shows, but that it goes that way, and that at the end of the whole thing, it ends up just being like, man, that one's one for the ages. We keep getting games for the ages with this game.
I love it. It's BYU and Utah. It's going to be an amazing game, and that's going to be the highlight game, of course, in the Big 12 this week. And let's look at the rest of the Big 12 schedule next here on First and 12 on KSL News Radio.
The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back. It is another week and another edition of Mitch Harper and myself, Alex Kirry. It is First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Thanks for being with us on the program. Mitch, lots going on, of course, across this Big 12 week, and we've got some games to look at and see what the schedule looks like here. Let's go through with the week ahead in the Big 12.
The week ahead. Matchups that have us the most excited about the week to come in the Big 12.
It's hard to believe, but it's already week 8 in college football, and the chase for Arlington, I feel like, starts to heat up as we get to the midway point of the season, and teams are trying to really still establish their identity, as you talked about earlier. It's still learning a lot about these teams, and we're learning a lot about Arizona and Houston. The Wildcats go to the Cougars in H-Town at 10 a.m. on FS1 this Saturday, an all-out cat fight. I'm curious to see how Arizona responds. I will say Brett Brennan was very positive after a loss. Usually you see coaches after losses, they're just dejected. They're
and
so
an emotional
devastated.
one like that,
He's
especially.
we just hung tough with one of the most physical teams in the league, and I thought to myself, That's probably not the messaging your fans want to hear, man. It felt a little moral victory like.
We played hard, man.
But at the same time, I do see where he's going with, but he better follow it up with a win this week at Houston, because still for the Arizona faithful that just maybe are casual observers, they're going to say, Houston, we should beat them. That was once a G5 team. So kind of a big spot for Arizona and Houston in that early morning FS1 10 a.m. spot.
Well, and they have a lot to prove. Both of them have a lot to prove, obviously. Houston, people still don't want to take seriously.
They could get bowl eligibility, too. 2 words, bowl eligible.
When Kalani brought that up this week, too, at some point, he's bowl eligible.
I kind of forgot that. I'm like,
I didn't. I did, too. And then I hear that, and then I go, oh, that cheapens it. Yeah, the Poinsettia Bowl awaits, Coach. Yeah, you're right. No, come on.
You didn't get your bowl-bound shirt?
No, I already have the...
it's already on sale.
Listen, we have a contract, so if we get bowl eligible for the next 48 years, we end up in...
We didn't plan on this, but do you miss... You got to... Do you not miss that at all?
I don't miss it at all.
Hey, it's the Fight Hunger Bowl reps.
Yeah, and they're
6 win.
And you're like, how do you know it's Fight Hunger? Well, they're wearing the teal jackets. You're like, come on. Come on, when they all try to have a bowl committee, you're like, you're not the freaking Rose Bowl. Get out of here with your multicolored jackets that are supposed to be matching.
It's it's November 1st, and we're already giving someone a bowl bid. This stinks. This is not fun.
No, okay. Full disclosure, we'd be up in the press box. We'd see those guys walk in, and every one of us would roll our eyes and be like, oh my gosh. These guys can't wait. They wanted the free ticket out of town to get away from their wife, Jeannie, and go, I got a free meal at the Brick Oven. I heard it's a pretty good pizza place. Get out of here.
Indirect recommendation to El Presidente?
No, it's not. I even told him, I said, don't go to Brick Oven and pretend. Someone goes, go to Brick Oven. Yeah. No, they're doing the frosted mugs. One bite, everybody knows the rules. Get out of here. All right. Now, another game that the league has tried to bill, and both of these teams have tried to bill as a huge rivalry game. Since I was a kid, this was never really there, but they're still trying to make it like that. Baylor and TCU. I know there's a name to this.
Blue Bonnet.
Oh, gosh. Official flower of the state of Texas, by the way. Baylor at TCU. That's a big one for both of these teams, because both of them are looking right now at each other and going, so one of us has to emerge here out of these two teams who's got to be decent. And by the way, if you lose this game in your Sunday Dykes, people are going to start wondering in Fort Worth what to do with you. Same thing goes for Dave Aranda, maybe even more so for him.
Yeah, the official rivalry name that the schools recognize is the Blue Bonnet Battle, but the fans call it the Revivalry between Baylor and TCU.
Because now they're both trying to get away from the religious ties of anything. Don't call us a religious school. I know it's Texas Christian University, but just say TCU. Okay?
It's an intriguing game, because you still feel like there's a chance for these teams to, maybe get to the Big 12 championship, because someone has to play Texas Tech in Arlington. It's got to be someone.
Yeah.
And maybe those two teams, if they can get hot, could be those squads. And that's 10 a.m. on ESPN2. If you're tuning into this game, you're sick, but you love Big 12 football. West Virginia at UCF, 11 a.m. on TNT. Again, you're sick if you're watching that one.
It's a battle of the two coaches 2.0. Rich Rod and Coach Frost.
You got me sold now.
Yeah, go see who does it. Two coaches looking across the sidelines going, what did you do? I don't know. My house is a little bit bigger, I guess. My office is the same office. So there you go. West Virginia and UCF. Texas Tech goes to Arizona State.
Ooh.
This one, man, it could have meant so much more than it does right now. Obviously, the injury to Sam Levitt, I don't know what that sits at right now, or if that's going to be a multi-week deal. If you miss against Utah, you've got to be getting ready for that game at Arizona State hosting Tech, right? Isn't that what is that what you're kind of looking forward to, or is Kenny Dillingham going to run into an issue where he's going to lose out on an opportunity to go back to Arlington because his quarterback is out for a couple of weeks during the worst part of their schedule? Yeah,
he reportedly participated. Levitt did in practice this week.
He did last week though too.
And that's the thing. It's like, how seriously do you take the fact that he was in practice? The availability reports will start trickling in on Wednesday, but I struggle to think of Dillingham just punting on a road game at Utah, where that could have been a real signature victory for this team. But maybe it's the long game to have a chance to win at home, because ASU is good at home. I mean, they have been excellent in Tempe. So, and I got to think, I would not have said this a couple years ago, but I expect Arizona State fans will show up. They'll turn up and be sold out, I would expect, for this game to welcome a number 7 Texas Tech squad. I think Texas Tech and ASU, that should be a fun game. Number 24, Cincinnati at Oklahoma State.
Oh, I was going to ask you about this game.
6 p.m. ESPN2.
I was going to ask you about this game. This feels like a Big 12 special. where we'll look at each other and go, what is wrong with this freaking league when we get the score update and it says it's 31-17 and Oklahoma State fans, all 19 of them, that one guy with his shirt off storms the field. Can you find a fan base if only 14 people storm the field? Isn't it just technically like people cleaning up after the game? I expect Cincinnati to roll. I guarantee the message is do not sleep on anybody in this league. If there's a team to sleep on, though, it's going to be Oklahoma State.
Number 23, Utah. At number 15, BYU. We already talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's dive into it a little bit more. 6 p.m. Fox and KSL News Radio. Kalani brought up earlier this week that the two schools need each other. Like, whether they want to admit it or not, they need each other. I thought that was interesting that Kalani said that. And, look, I think when we kind of look at it big picture with just the Big 12, I do think that when Utah and BYU are together in the league, they do build each other up, and I think that they build up the leagues that they're in. You think back to the WAC, the Mountain West. That Mountain West Conference, when they were together, Utah and BYU and TCU, that was a great league. I remember we'd have conversations about, is the Mountain West better than the Big East for the BCS
For sure. Yeah.
automatic bid? These two, when they're together and they're competing against one another for league supremacy, it does add an intensity and a fun and an entertaining aspect to the rivalry that makes it very rewarding. But I do think that even though the two fan bases do not like each other, when they are together in the same league, I think it helps lift up everyone involved.
Try hard to throw away your regional affiliation and our history with this game that we've covered for, in my case, almost 20 years. You're getting close to that number too, it feels like. So is this the biggest rivalry in the conference?
No question.
By far, right?
Hands down.
Am I being a person who lives in the state of Utah too much by saying that?
Baylor at TCU, a protected
That's
rivalry.
Supposed to be a big one.
It's a protected rivalry in this league.
Farmageddon.
And it's 10 a.m. ESPN2, and it's not even batting an eye. I think most casual college football fans wouldn't know it's a rivalry. Whereas BYU and Utah, maybe you haven't tuned in. If you're a casual college football fan, you haven't tuned into that game, but it's a rivalry because Utah and BYU, they just hate each other, and that's half the battle. You just know those teams are rivals, and it's a great rivalry. I'd be curious to see what the league does going forward in future years, where they put it on the schedule. Scott Draper, the football director in the Big 12, told me that Arizona and Arizona State will be protected at the end of the season every year.
Are you saying Scott Draper, the guy who didn't take the tortilla gate seriously? Is that same guy? We're going to allow him to handle this?
He told me that at spring meetings, and I wonder if with how this game is kind of being magnified on the national landscape, if they say, you know what, let's let this become the new Red River, because this used to be the spot, mid-October, Texas State Fair, Texas and Oklahoma, and that's what it was last week. Maybe Utah and BYU can do this thing in mid-October as well.
Let's take another break here. We'll come back. Now let's get into the predictions of how this week is going to go. Our game predictions for Week 8 of college football in the Big 12. Stay right here with us. It is 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio.
Today's just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Yeah, listen to JJ and Alex on the KSL Sports Zone on podcast as well. And you can also listen to this show on podcast,
Yes.
1st and 12, wherever you get your podcasts, and on the KSL Sports app, KSL News Radio app. So many different ways to listen and consume the show. We appreciate all of you for being on board every single week on Tuesday nights, talking Big 12 football here on 1st and 12. And at the end of the show, we always give you our game predictions.
1st and 12 predictions, scores, blowouts, and more with Mitch and Alex on 1st and 12.
You like that new imaging, Alex?
Sounds like a game show. Do I win something after today?
Very fancy.
I like it. Yes, our game predictions for this week. Week 8 gets even more complicated here. Let's start off first with some of the ones. Well, we'll just go straight up from when these things kick off. And so let's go Arizona at Houston. You've got whom in this matchup between the two cats, as you put it?
Bear down. I'm going to go with Arizona to bounce back and get a win on the road and maybe one of the best wins in the Brent Brennan era. I'll say the Wildcats get it done.
I always love that the Wildcats are like, can we explain what bear down means? We're not bears.
It happened again in the TV
I know,
broadcast
they had
last
to do
week.
it. And I'm like, bring the memorial up of the old player in 1922. It's fine. Just to explain why everybody's confused what you're talking
Arizona
about.
fans got to get sick of that on TV
They're like,
broadcast.
listen,
we know.
We just say bear down, okay? It's like War Eagle. Nobody knows. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows not War Eagle. Fine.
We just do it.
It's fine. They just do it. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to take the home team.
Okay.
I'm going to say that Houston turns at least a little corner in this conference, and Arizona hasn't totally figured themselves out yet. I do think that they are tough. I think there's going to be a little bit of that emotional letdown from last week, and then you hit the road. And so I'm going to go with Houston beating Arizona this week. Baylor at TCU, the rivalry down in Texas. The Blue Bonnet, what is it? The Blue Bonnet Bash?
Blue Bonnet Battle? Yeah,
call
we
it
don't know.
Bluebell. That's the best ice cream in the land.
Gosh.
Go there. Come on, man.
Oh, my gosh. I found a local place that sells that Blue Moo. Oh, my gosh.
And it's drive-through,
incredible.
and it's drive-through, too.
Elite, man.
It's the worst place for a fat guy to learn
Yep.
about. Come on, man.
Guilty as
I'm
charged.
telling you. Listen, Texans they claim everything's better there, but I will say, as a native Texan myself, Bluebell does it right. I'm gonna go. I think Sonny Dykes figures this one out, and I think TCU wins this one. They're in Fort Worth, which doesn't necessarily mean much because they went down and beat Baylor down there. I think in Baylor a couple years ago with that quick field goal, and they went the national championship game. But I think that TCU has got it. I think they have a better shot of turning things around than Baylor does.
Yeah, I'll go with TCU as well. I feel much better about TCU at home, but I do want to see Josh Hoover. The passing yards are off the charts. He's second nationally, only behind Sawyer Robertson.
Right.
So you got the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks in the country in this game. Should be huge numbers. But I'll say TCU, maybe like 51-48. I think this is going to be some big-time numbers in this game. How about West Virginia at UCF? First-year coaches back at their old spots. I'm going with the Knights. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm too. I think just because West Virginia's still on like QB4 right now, and I think UCF has found a little bit of juice at home, and so I'm okay with that. And I'm going to go UCF as well. Texas Tech, number 7, hits the road to an Arizona State team that doesn't have a number next to their name, but that's deceiving because I think they're just as good as some of these other teams that are in the top 25.
I agree. I will go with Texas Tech, though. I think just because Texas Tech's been so dominant, and I think they'll continue that. I think they win maybe by 2 touchdowns in this one and really make a statement again they should be a top 4 team. I think Texas Tech's that good. Texas Tech rolls in this one over Arizona State. I think ASU puts up a fight in the first half, and then the Red Raiders pull away.
I can't go against Texas Tech right now just because of how much they're rolling. Plus, man, Joey McGuire just is dialed in, I think, as a coach. I think that has a huge part of it. He has his guys dialed in, so there you go. Cincinnati going to Oklahoma State. Cincinnati, first time ranked this year. You could see somebody fumbling that away, but I don't know if you do it at Stillwater.
Oh, that would be awful for Cincinnati. I mean, if they lost this game, don't you think that takes away all the good vibes that Satterfield has built up?
Oh, yeah.
Like, instantly gone if you lost this.
Yeah, and it would put him in the conversation of losing his job again because then they go, well, that's they lose because that's their second. It'd be it'd be
only their first conference loss. But
if they incurred another one somewhere along the way, then people would go, you lost that freaking Oklahoma State game.
It would
man.
just
You
be
ruined
a
the whole
black
season."
guy if they lost it. I don't think they will. I think Cincy wins
Absolutely.
big. Then the big one, number 23 Utah at number 15 BYU. For all the rivalry marbles, BYU and Utah. Who you got, Alex?
Okay, and don't at me, all of my
They're gonna hold you to it,
my
man.
Cougar brethren. Don't at me because, I might have a degree on the wall from BYU, but I'm reading the tea leaves right now, not the degree on the wall. I think Utah comes in with a different level of juice. I think that something's bubbling in the background of Kyle Whittingham, this being his last one. And I think that they dial something up different this week. And I think Utah delivers back to BYU what they did to them in Salt Lake, which is an eked out win in Provo, and just absolutely tears the hearts out. And listen, this time though, a BYU cheerleader beats up a Utah fan on the field. I don't encourage it. I'm just saying I just see it in the tea leaves. Nobody wants it.
Well, I'm reading the Swig cream messaging in my Swig Baristas drinks. I'm saying BYU gets it done, and I think the Cougs find a way. Look, This is going to be a slugfest. Defense.
I hope it is. I really do.
This is going to be an all-out, knockout, drag-out fight for 60 minutes. I'm saying, like, by a field goal, I don't think either team reaches 20 points.
Wow.
I think this is going to be
Kinda ugly.
an epic defensive battle, but I think BYU comes out on top. I think the Cougs at home, I think there's more pressure on Utah in this game than BYU. I think BYU comes in loose, underdog, at home. I think the Cougs get it done.
I was on the opposite side of the field watching the field goal get blocked for 17-16 during that Jake Heaps year.
Yeah,
so
that's right, 2010. Something like that.
17-16 type of game?
That's what I'm envisioning here.
All right.
I think these defenses hold up in this one, and it becomes a classic physical defensive battle between BYU and Utah.
Tons of programming to take care of you this weekend. Of course, Cougar Sports Saturday, the extended pregame from you guys. We have over on our dial from 4 to 6. We've also got you dialed in for an extended pregame on the KSL Sports Zone, and our College Football Saturday starts at 10. So from 10 all the way up until through game coverage, we're going to have you taking care of basically a 15-hour day. That means a 15 or 16-hour day for Mitch Harper and myself, too. And you know what? This is what we were born for. So there you go. For Mitch Harper, for our producer Gustavo, I'm Alex. We'll see you next week on another edition of First and 12, 102.7 FM at 1160 AM. There it is, KSL News Radio.